All right, guys, on to our next session. Next, we have Jem, who is the CEO and founder at Adcubator. I love that name. Jem, I'm going to let you take it away. And am I saying your name right?
Spot on. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a part of our session today.
Of course. All right, guys. Let me just figure out how to screen share, and I'm going to kick you guys off, and we're going to speak about all the amazing things that I have to share with you today. Now, first things first. What you guys need to understand is what we are talking about today, which is number one, Google Ads, and number two, how we internally at Adcubator actually use and make use of all of these AI agents that we have built from the ground up. Now, the most interesting thing to understand is also how the entire shift within Google Ads has been happening throughout the course of history, if we want to name it like that. Now, in 2020, as many of you know, smart shopping was removed. They moved it to PMax. They stopped with smart display. They removed discovery. They moved all of that stuff into demand gen. They removed YouTube, which is obviously part of demand gen right now. So what's kind of like the click moment for us at Adcubator is Google is trying to steer away a lot from all of the manual work and is trying to make everything more holistic, right? Meaning we're talking more about automation, more about working with the machine, working with the algorithm. So today I'm going to be talking about how AI is actually changing the way that we run Google Ads. Now, if we're talking about the old Google Ads game, we need to understand what has been working before. It has been obviously totally hands-on media buying, right? Making sure that we have all of the match types set up correctly, making sure that we have all of the tweaks, making sure that if there's a change, that we understand where actually it's coming from and what this change is actually driving in terms of performance, right? And a lot of the things and a lot of the tools that have been making our lives easy just have been removed across the board based on what I've just mentioned, right? So back then it was more so about really managing the machine and not helping the machine manage you and the ad account. So back then, success was really about intuition, being very close to the data, and being able to react fast. Because sometimes you weren't really able to have certain mechanisms in place that are going to help you deviate and essentially manage your ad accounts properly, just because there's so many things going on. So what Google has been trying to do the past few years is make sure that Google is helping you and your ad accounts drive towards a place where things are more automated, right? And all of these things are truthfully fundamentally changing right now. So if we think about it, this is how the new reality looks like. This is what modern Google Ads is about. Instead of having a million campaigns, a lot of the segmentation and a lot of the easiness is obviously being driven from Performance Max. A lot of the signal aggregation, if we're talking about customer match lists, if we're talking about first-party data, if we're talking about even insights from zero-party data that we can move into all of the audience insights and all of the search terms that we have and even into new angles, new iterations, right? And obviously more so asset buying, media buying, or asset-based media buying, which obviously means everything that we are doing on Meta, on TikTok, on Snapchat, we want to take all of these things, all of these assets, and move them over to Google. Because this is what fundamentally has been going wrong with Google Ads for many, many years. If we think about the agency space as a whole, there's either agencies that are truly dedicated to their craft when it comes to search and shopping, or there's agencies that are very good at YouTube. And the way that things are turning out right now is a lot of these agencies that are either search and shopping or YouTube and display are kind of like understanding, okay, if I really want to excel at the entire platform and not only at a single campaign type, this is what I need to be doing, right? So this is what Performance Max helps a lot of retailers, a lot of e-commerce brands, a lot of agencies obviously help their businesses more easily, right? Because if you think about it, and we've seen it yesterday in the Q2 earnings, obviously they've crushed everything, right? And I've had this prediction last year where I understood that if Google proceeds with the strength that they currently have, where they move more into automation, where they move more into making things more easy, it's quite obvious that the stock price will go up. Because at the end of the day, what Google is trying to do here is not only help all of the big businesses, but also the small realtors, not only retailers, but also obviously, dentists, hairstylists, and all of these small businesses. Because at the end of the day, all of these businesses, they might not necessarily be able to afford, an agency or someone dedicated that is able to manage these things, right? And this is why obviously we have things like Performance Max in place that is going to help them, kind of like if you think about a smart search campaign back then, that is going to help them drive performance. So that's kind of like how everything used to be. What we're moving into right now is a new age of Google Ads, where things that win today are obviously speed, structure, and systemization. And if we're talking about speed, it's not necessarily about how fast can you create campaigns and how fast are you able to get certain deliverables done. But speed comes hand in hand with what you are seeing within the data, within what your strategy is, and what the structure and systematization needs to look like. So with that being said, at the end of the day, if we think about structure, there's a very methodical approach to running Google Ads and how we use it with AI. In the beginning, we need to understand what kind of business are we talking about. Are we a business that is trying to be profitable on the first purchase? Are we a subscription business that needs to be profitable throughout, their LTV, their 90 days, their 120 days cohorts, or whatever it is? So these are a lot of the things that we need to understand initially so that we're able to make optimizations. Are we optimizing based on CAC? Are we optimizing based on MER? Are we optimizing based on NCAC or AMER? All of these things matter if we think about what Google Ads nowadays is about. And if we're talking about asset-based buying and systemization, the closest thing that comes to mind is if you have another media buying channel, another traffic platform that is working, such as Meta or such as TikTok. It's more than obvious to take all of these assets and plug and play them into your Google Ads system. Because at the end of the day, if something is working on Meta, why wouldn't it work on Google? Why wouldn't it work on YouTube, right? So that's kind of like the new reality, what modern Google Ads is about nowadays. And I'm going to give you a few examples on this in a bit here. If we think about AI as an operating engine, it's not necessarily about auto-applied recommendations or OptiScore, how all of the Google reps love to tell us, obviously. It goes way beyond all of these things. It's not only reporting, but it's your entire operations. And that's something I can clearly say from obviously running this agency for many years, right? It's not only about what are the trends and what are the numbers look like. Because at the end of the day, we can all go into our Triple Whale dashboard and take a look at the last 7 days and see, well, this is performing or this is not performing. So it's not necessarily about what do the last 7 days look like. It's more so about understanding how you need to fragment the data and how you need to take a look at it. And again, I'm going to show you this in a bit. So with AI, with Triple Whale, with AI agents, what we can do, we can monitor every single thing inside of the ad account, meaning we're able to split pull and push traffic, meaning, and this is kind of like a nice analogy, what I was saying before, that a lot of the agencies are either focusing on push or pull. So what you can do obviously inside of the ad account is make sure that you understand how much money you're spending on push and pull, how much money you're spending on, certain best creatives, how much money you should be allocating to certain new things. So a lot of the things that we OG marketers have learned throughout the years, and a certain feeling that you get whenever you are running and scaling an ad account, a lot of this feeling is being helped by AI and AI agents nowadays. And I can truly say that this is something we've been seeing across the board from managing a few accounts. So another thing that AI and AI agents help us with is obviously making sure that if something is underperforming, or if we're taking a certain creative on Meta and we plug it onto Google and it's not working as well, it can immediately flag inefficiencies, right? Because think about it. If you are working with an ad account where policies are truly strict and quite harsh, think about Breeze in this respective case, then it's quite obvious to not have 5 creatives inside of one campaign, but to rather have one campaign per creative. Because obviously, if you have an ad disapproval, a lot of the spend is going to be moved towards another creative that might not be working as well, right? So at the end of the day, it's kind of also about forcing spend. And if you want to force that spend, you need to be able to flag inefficiencies. So if you're testing 200, 300 creatives within 200-300 different campaigns, it's quite easy to miss a few of these things, especially if you don't have 2 people working full-time inside of an ad account. But it also goes vice versa. It also goes to being able to catching the opportunities where you should be spending more, right? Whether that is on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or whatever it is. And last but not least, what you're able to do is obviously you can execute and automate a few of these actions, whether it's scaling down, whether it's scaling up, or whatever it is that you want to do. So the bottom line is really how AI closes the gap and what the future of media buying or media operations look like. So with that being said, I'm briefly going to stop sharing this presentation and we're going to go into Triple Whale and I'm going to move into AI agents. Here we go. I'm briefly going to share my entire screen so we can take a look at this. Now, I will show you and walk you through a few of these things. Obviously we can share this after, but I'm going to give you a few ideas as to what you can actually do with these AI agents. And I'm going to show you a few examples what we actually use it for. So, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger so all of you can read this. So let's say you want to build an AI agent that works around Google Ads and you want to pull all of the creatives from TikTok and Meta in the last 7 days. Because again, it's quite obvious that if something is working on either TikTok or Meta, you want to be using this for YouTube respectively. Same with the stills, same with the statics, right? Because then you can use it on demand gen. So what you can do is obviously you can pull all of these things. And in this case, it's not as accurate, but here it is. And you can pull the best performing creatives and take a look at which ones are actually working best. And depending on what your naming conventions might look like, you are able to see which angles are working best, right? You can tell Triple Whale and the agents based on all the naming conventions, based on all the angles that we have, what are some other angles that we should test? You can transcribe all of the creatives and all of the ad copy that you have, feed it into Triple Whale and ask for dedicated recommendations. Hey, based on all the data that you have, based on all the spend, based on the ROAS, based on the CTR, what are other angles that we should potentially double down on, right? So that's something that you can keep in mind. So that's number one. Number two, if you want to not only get this for TikTok or whatever it is, but also want to make sure that you can get it for another platform, you can do the exact same. So you can pull the creative name, you can pull the ad ID, you can pull the spend, you can take a look at the ROAS, and you can take a look at whatever it is that you want to take a look at, right? Whether it's prospecting, whether it's language. In this case, it might be a Spanish creative that might be popping off, right? And it's quite interesting because this brand is actually US first. So if you think that a brand is actually US first, but they're testing Spanish creatives, they're testing a different audience, they're testing different angles within the US, but in a different language, and if that actually might be working better, then that definitely is a sign for us to actually double down on all of the Spanish things. Whether that might be we need to take more of the creatives and run them in Spanish, or we actually might be able to expand to Spain in Spanish, or we're going to expand to duplicating the product feed to making sure it's not only in English, but also in Spanish in the US. And we're, that way able to cater a whole different audience. Then if we move to the next one, if we want to understand what all of the metrics look like, whether we're talking about new customer ROAS, whether we're talking about ROAS, whether we're talking about MER, we can pull all of these things, right? And the way I like to do it is I always like to take a look at current 7 days and previous 7 days, because it gives you an idea on, which trends are working better or less better. Because obviously you and your media buyers and your team, you guys should have a change log, meaning you guys need to be able to understand what you are changing that is driving less performance in this case, or higher performance, right? So if it would be vice versa, then we would need to understand, okay, because we have made change X, now we're reaping the rewards for Y because we did X, right? Now, we can also get the entire breakdown on all of the spend, all of the ROAS, and get all of this, which, might be quite obvious, but we can also double down on all of the other creatives, right? TikTok, Meta, we can take a look at what is working within Google. We're able to see what the critical issues are, what the actions are that we need to be taking. In this case, it's always important to give relevant context, right? So for example, if it says new customer ROAS is down or the goals aren't met, it doesn't necessarily mean that the targets are not met. What the most crucial part about this is that the AI agent that you have, or that you're building, or that you want to have, understands what your goal is. Whether that is, okay, this is how much we're spending on this platform, and this is the Shopify revenue, but now we also have this revenue on Amazon, which is spillover, right? So you're also able to measure direct lift and potentially causation or correlation, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, two different things, but if you're doubling the spend on Google, and if Amazon revenue doubles, I think it's quite obvious to say that we're speaking about a clear correlation here. Then you're able to make even more informed decisions, as only opposed to, okay, we're going to put on our goggles and only take a look at what's working within Google Ads. Because this is a very old school way of media buying. It's not only about what is working on Google, what is working on the keyword level, what creative is working. It's a very dumbed down approach, if I may say so. So what you guys need to be stepping away from is making sure that every single thing in the ad account is profitable, because obviously the more things are profitable, the better. But you need to understand how the entire marketing ecosystem works and how these things feed into each other, right? So last but not least, another thing that I want to mention is push versus pull marketing. And that's actually a very, very nice thing that we have built out here as well. So it all goes back to what I've mentioned in the beginning, which is pull marketing, search shopping. If you want to put PMAX to it, you may. And obviously push marketing, which is going to be demand gen, display, YouTube. Obviously YouTube we have within demand gen, but we're able to see these differences and these differentiations between spend, ROAS, revenue, new customer, CPA, etc. pp. And based on all of the data that you feed it, the agent is also going to give you clear recommendations, right? Creative testing, YouTube with TikTok winners, display with top 6 meta creatives, right? Or maybe we need to do a refresh. So these are a lot of the things that you could automate with AI agents, whether it's breaking down the winners, the best creatives, whether it's breaking down the performance as a whole, whether it's breaking down push versus pull, whether it is language or countries, or at the end of the day, there's so many things that you can do with AI agents. So that's kind of like a small presentation, a small piece of insights that I wanted to share with you in regards to how you can use AI agents within Google Ads. And that's about it.